Chosen one, the divine tribunal has cleared, and your total vindication is now a matter of public record. As the truth of the calculated season spent on your destruction surfaces, the atmosphere has shifted into a profound shock. Somebody's behavior towards you has people appalled. They can't believe you lived through that. You didn't fold. You showed up every day with your integrity intact, proving you are built from something most people could never imagine. Every great arc has a moment where the villain makes their defining mistake. It is the moment they point at someone and say, that is the one I am going to take down. And in choosing you, they signed the first page of their own downfall. They just did not know it yet. They saw someone who carried themselves with a quiet certainty that they could not manufacture, no matter how hard they tried. They saw someone who moved through life and caused something to shift wherever you went, not because you were performing, not because you were trying to be anything in particular, but simply because of what you naturally carry, your energy, your presence, the way you made people feel seen and warm without even trying, the way good things seemed to find you, the way you bounced back from things that would have permanently flattened other people, the way your smile never looked like it was working hard, and something inside that person could not take it. Understand this: envy is never about what you have. Envy is about what someone else sees in you that they do not see in themselves. Your smile was not just a smile to that person, it was a mirror, and they despised what the mirror showed them about themselves every single time they were near you. So a decision got made. You were going to be knocked down so many notches that the mirror would finally stop bothering them. You were going to be made small enough that they could feel big enough. Your light was going to be dimmed so they would not have to feel so dark standing next to you. This is where everything begins, with that decision, with the moment you were identified as the problem, not because you were one, but because your very existence exposed someone else's lack. That single, jealousy-fueled, small-hearted decision set something in motion that could never have been predicted. It started a chain of events that has been unfolding ever since, and right now, at this exact moment, we are at the part of that chain where it reaches them. While you were living your life, waking up, going about your business, trying to build something, trying to move forward, a whole campaign was being run against you, quietly, methodically, deliberately. It was happening behind your back, in spaces you were not invited into, at tables you did not even know existed. Whispers were being planted in the ears of people who trusted the wrong source. True things about you were being bent just enough to make them look damaging. Fabricated things were being wrapped in just enough believability to make them stick. Your opportunities were being quietly sabotaged. Your connections were being poisoned before they could fully form. Situations were being orchestrated specifically to make you appear unstable, untrustworthy, or less than, because the goal was never to beat you fairly. The goal was to make sure you never got the chance to be seen clearly. All of it was happening behind a mask of concern. All of it was being executed while performing care, while smiling directly to your face. The most dangerous opposition does not announce itself. It wages war while pretending to be your ally, and that is exactly what was being done to you. While all of that was happening in the shadows, you kept going, not because you knew what was happening and heroically overcame it. You kept going because something deep in you simply refused to stop, even when you had no idea why the path felt so impossibly heavy. Even when you could not name what was working against you, even when the confusion was thick and the weight was real and the exhaustion was genuine, something in you kept moving anyway. That is not ordinary strength. Ordinary strength fights what it can see. What you carry, what you demonstrated without even knowing you were demonstrating it, is the kind of strength that operates on a frequency that sabotage simply cannot access. The attack was aimed at your circumstances, but it could never reach your core. And the entire time the outside was being pressured, something on the inside was quietly getting stronger. What people are now discovering is that the opposition against you was not casual. There is a meaningful difference between someone who vents in frustration about another person and someone who deliberately runs a managed operation. What is coming to light is that information about you was being carefully controlled. Each person in the circle was being fed a version of you tailored specifically to keep them in line. One version here, a different version there, always managed to make sure the accounts never directly collided, but always making you the common denominator in whatever damage was being caused. When people started comparing notes, the operation began to collapse. When someone who had been told one thing encountered someone who had been told something entirely different, the constructed accounts no longer held. The only explanation that made all the pieces fit was the one nobody wanted to believe at first, that it was manufactured, that it was deliberate, that what was done to you was never a conflict that spiraled out of control. It was a construction, carefully architected, strategically maintained, and aimed entirely at you. People who discover this do not just feel surprised, they feel disturbed, because it reveals a pattern of behavior, and patterns, unlike excuses, do not lie. Every single thing done against you in the dark was being recorded, not by human hands, not in any file that could be found or destroyed. The full account was being kept by something far greater, and the reckoning for that account was already scheduled long before anyone on the outside started to notice anything. If this message speaks to your soul, hype this video so other chosen ones can discover it. There were seasons where you were genuinely not okay. The manufactured confusion got inside your head. You started to wonder, am I actually the problem here? You started to internalize the damage that was being deliberately placed around you. You looked at yourself and heard someone else's critical voice playing back instead of your own. That was the most sophisticated layer of the attack. Direct hits are visible. You can see them coming, and you can defend against them. But when your entire environment is being slowly orchestrated to make you doubt yourself, when the people around you are being quietly turned, when opportunities keep dissolving without explanation, when you keep getting blindsided by things that make no rational sense, eventually the mind goes searching for a pattern. And if the only consistent common denominator the mind can identify is you, the mind begins to turn against you. That was the goal all along, to engineer your collapse from the inside, to let the self-doubt finish the job, to get you to quit, not because you had been beaten in any honest competition, but because you had been convinced to disqualify yourself. And there were real, raw, private moments where that strategy came dangerously close to working. You did not quit, not because quitting did not feel tempting, not because the weight was not real, but because something underneath all of that confusion, underneath all of that manufactured chaos, already knew the truth, even when you could not prove it, even when you could not put it into words, even when no one around you fully understood what you were carrying. Something in you already knew, this is not my doing, this is not who I am, and this is not how my story ends. That quiet knowing was the turning point, gathering beneath the surface, and it was about to change everything. It is not just that the truth is coming out, it is the specific reactions of the people receiving it, and those reactions tell you something very important about exactly where you stand right now. When people find out what was done to you, the first response is disbelief, not the polite, diplomatic kind, the genuine wide-eyed need to sit down for a moment kind of disbelief, because in their minds, what they are learning does not match the person they thought they knew on the other side of this situation. They assumed it was a conflict, a falling out, maybe some tension between two people that got messy. That is manageable, that is something most people can relate to from their own experience. But when they understand that this was not a conflict but a campaign, that it was not a falling out but a coordinated takedown attempt, that the behavior reached levels most people would not even consider, let alone actually execute over a sustained period of time, that is when disbelief shifts into something sharper. That is when people stop saying, "Wow, that is wild," and start asking real questions. Questions like, Who genuinely does that? Who invests that level of deliberate, sustained misery into another person's life? Who makes the conscious choice, repeatedly, over and over again, to do what was done to you? I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something, but talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action, and real chosen ones are also paying attention. You've noticed it. Chosen one channels getting silenced, videos pulled, voices removed from the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us. But we will not give up our voice, and neither should you. That's why joining Destiny Engine is a 360 win. You support your favorite channels and fuel your own rise at the same time. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. The beauty is, you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your Destiny Engine for $7 today. Join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. And then they look at you with the full picture in mind. What crosses their face is layered and unmistakable. There is compassion in it, yes, but there is also something that unmistakably resembles awe. Because the version of you they are now seeing, the version that endured all of that and still maintained character, still kept moving forward, still refused to become bitter or closed off or vengeful, that version of you is someone they did not fully understand until this moment. Some of them want to fight for you. That is worth naming plainly. There are people in your orbit right now, and just outside of it, who are genuinely activated on your behalf. The kind of activated that wants to do something concrete and meaningful, wants to make it right, wants to make sure that what was done to you carries a consequence that is proportional to the offense. Justice has its own gravity. When people witness something clearly and undeniably wrong, something inside them rises to correct it, and some of them want to get closer to you. That is not incidental, that is deeply significant. When the full truth of what you survived becomes visible to people with real discernment and real character, it does not push them away, it pulls them in, it makes them want to be near someone who went through the fire and came out walking. Your journey is not a liability, it is a magnet, and right now it is drawing exactly the right people directly toward you. Truth leaks. That is simply its nature. You can cap it, suppress it, bury it under layers of noise and manufactured narrative, and it will still find a crack. Truth is patient in a way that deception can never afford to be. Lies require constant, exhausting maintenance. They require constant energy, constant vigilance and constant management to make sure all the circulating versions still align, that all the people involved still believe what they were sold, and that all the moving pieces are still holding together. Truth requires none of that. Truth only requires time. As time passed, something was noticeably shifting. A conversation happened between two people who had been fed different versions of the same account, and suddenly the versions did not match each other. Someone who had been told something specific about you then had a direct experience with you that completely contradicted what they had been told. A detail emerged that simply did not fit the narrative being maintained. An account was repeated one too many times, and someone finally asked the one question that had no clean or comfortable answer. One crack. That was all truth needed, and from that single crack, the entire constructed structure began to reveal its weakness. People started comparing notes. They started connecting pieces. The picture that was forming, the real, full, unmanaged picture, looked nothing like what they had been told to see. The chaos they had been led to believe you were creating kept turning out to be chaos that was actually being directed at you. The character they had been handed a description of kept turning out to be a costume someone else had dressed you in without your knowledge or consent. What people are now seeing is making them appalled, not at you, at what was deliberately done to you, at the sustained and calculated cruelty of the operation. And the unfolding is not over. More is still coming to light. Every new piece that falls into place makes your name cleaner, your character clearer, and the full truth more undeniable. There's a divine reckoning, a cosmic tribunal, where every piece of evidence is on the table. Every lie is exposed. Every manipulation is documented. Every false accusation is held directly up against the full and unfiltered truth. No spin, no managed versions, no selective presentation of facts. Just the complete, unredacted truth about everything that was done, everything that was said, and every hand that moved against you in the dark. The verdict, not guilty, on everything, dismissed, cleared, fully, completely, and unambiguously exonerated. That is where you are right now. The moment has arrived, and your vindication does not just clear your name, it simultaneously collapses the entire construction that was built against you. Every truth that confirms who you really are is the exact same truth that exposes what was really happening in the shadows. You cannot receive one without the other. The same light that shows your character clean reveals the opposing character for precisely what it was. Now here is the specific element that is hitting people the hardest. It is not just that the harmful behavior happened. It is that it was unnecessary. That word keeps surfacing consistently in every conversation people are having about what was done to you. Unnecessary. Because even if every grievance held against you was completely genuine, even if every frustration and every perceived slight was real, what was chosen in response went so far beyond anything proportionate that it moved entirely out of the territory of conflict and into the territory of deliberate cruelty. Nobody who witnesses the full picture can call any of it justified. What was done to you was excessive, obsessive, and at its core deeply unnecessary. You were put through all of that for nothing, for ego, for insecurity, for someone's inability to simply sit with the discomfort of being near a person who carries more light than they do. You were weaponized against by someone who had direct access to you and to the people around you, and not one single calculated move in that entire operation was necessary. That word is now permanently attached to how that person is perceived. It surfaces in every conversation. It becomes the defining reference point that overshadows everything else. Not the history, not the good moments, not any better version of that person that existed before. The behavior, the deliberate choices, the fact that when given every opportunity to simply leave you alone and move on, escalation was chosen instead. When a structure built on deception loses its foundation, it does not crumble gradually or gracefully, it collapses fast. The alliances that were built against you are fracturing. Nobody wants to be associated with what is now coming fully into the open. The people who were recruited into the operation, the ones who passed whispers along, who maintained distance from you based entirely on what they had been told, are quietly stepping away from the whole situation, not with drama, not with any public announcement, just deliberate, measured, permanent distance. The support system around that person is visibly thinning. Check-ins have slowed to almost nothing. Invitations have become rare, not because anyone made a dramatic declaration, but because something fundamental shifted in how people feel when they are around that energy now. A discomfort is present that was never there before, a quiet guilt by association that nobody wants to carry. The people who genuinely care about that person are now worried about them. The people who were more casually connected are simply removing themselves without offering any explanation, being known as someone who went to those lengths and sank to those lows to deliberately harm someone who did nothing to deserve it. That is a reputation that does not wash away quickly. It sticks. It becomes the first and defining reference point whenever the name comes up. Not the history, not the better moments, the behavior, the choices, the fact that when given every possible opportunity to simply leave you alone, war was chosen as the preferred response. Meanwhile, every door that was used against you is reopening. Every connection that was poisoned is healing or being replaced by something far more aligned and far better. The chaos that was designed specifically for your life found its way directly back to its source. It did not transfer to you the way it was intended to. It compounded on the person who sent it, and the contrast between where you are headed and where that person currently stands is not lost on a single person who is paying attention. You are free, not partially free, not almost free, fully, completely, and on all charges free. And freedom, after carrying everything you carried, does not feel like relief alone. It feels like acceleration. It feels like the wind shifting direction all at once. It feels like a weight releasing from your body that you had been carrying for so long you forgot what it felt like to stand without it. Think of a vehicle that has been trying to move forward with its brakes fully engaged. The engine was always powerful. The destination was always real, but something was creating constant resistance, constant friction, and constant drag against every effort you made. And then the brakes release. You did not receive a new engine. The power was always yours. You simply had something working forcefully against it. Now you do not. That is your life right now. You are launching with everything you already possess. Every skill, every gift, every layer of wisdom that was forged in the fire. You are now free to move forward without being dragged back. The momentum that was always yours by right is now yours in reality. And because of what you developed while navigating that level of difficulty, you are not just moving, you are moving with precision, with discernment, and with a depth that comfortable, uncontested paths simply do not produce in a person. You are not moving alone either. A companion is entering this next chapter of your life. Not someone who is drawn to your struggle, not someone who needs you to stay diminished in order to feel relevant or needed. Someone who is your equal, someone whose own light does not compete with yours, it matches yours. Someone who looks at the full account of your journey and moves toward you because of it, not in spite of it. Someone who is genuinely invested in where you are going because your destination and theirs are pointing in the same direction. This may arrive as a romantic connection. It may be professional. It may be the creative partner, the business collaborator, or the person who simply walks beside you as this next chapter opens. However it arrives, it will be mutual, it will be real, and after everything you have been through, you will recognize the difference the moment it steps into your life. There is one word that needs to be used carefully here, because it is real, and it deserves to be received in full. That word is reward, not a consolation prize, not a resigned at least something good came of it. A genuine, specific, and personalized reward for making it through what you made it through with your character completely intact. A divine acknowledgement that the path was harder than it ever should have been, and that you stayed on it anyway. A release of everything that was held up and held back and held in reserve while the battle was being fought on your behalf. For some of you, the reward is material. Resources, opportunities, connections, offers, and openings that were always in your future, but simply could not reach you while the interference was blocking the path. Those things are now moving toward you with a momentum that is going to feel almost disorienting after so long fighting for every inch of progress. One opening leads directly to 3 more. A single honest conversation leads to a connection that leads to an opportunity you would not have known to ask for. That is the return on every seed you planted while you were still standing in the middle of the storm. For some of you, the reward is relational. The right people are finding you. The wrong ones are quietly disqualifying themselves. The social landscape around you is finally beginning to reflect your actual character, rather than the constructed version someone else was actively distributing. People are being drawn to the real, unfiltered, post-fire version of you, and they are staying. For some of you, the reward is larger in scope than you have yet allowed yourself to imagine. Your testimony is needed in spaces you have not yet entered. What you survived and the way you survived it is the kind of account that does not just inspire people, it changes them at a cellular level. It reaches them in the specific places that polished, comfortable success narratives simply cannot access. You are going to say something, do something, or simply be present somewhere, and it is going to matter to people in a way that genuinely surprises you. And here is the part of the reward that rarely gets named. It is the full restoration of your trust in yourself. One of the quietest casualties of a sustained operation against you is your relationship with your own instincts. When your environment is being managed from the outside and your relationships are being influenced without your knowledge, you eventually stop fully trusting your own read of situations. You begin overriding your gut. You dismiss the moments where something clearly felt wrong, because the version of events you were being sold made your own instincts seem paranoid or unreliable. That is over now, because the truth has confirmed everything you already felt. Every time something felt wrong and you could not name it, it was wrong. Every time you sensed a situation was being managed and you talked yourself out of the feeling, it was being managed. Your instincts were never broken, they were accurate the entire time. Knowing that restores something permanent and foundational in you. You can trust yourself again fully, without apology and without hesitation. And that restored self-trust is going to protect everything you build from this point forward. Something needs to be said plainly. It may be easy to hear, but it takes real effort to fully absorb. What you went through is not ordinary, not in the casual sense of everybody goes through something difficult. That general truth does not apply here, because what happened to you is not in the same category as a hard season, a rough patch, or a relationship that simply did not work out. What happened to you was targeted, it was sustained, it was calculated, and the fact that you have been living your life, moving forward, and continuing to function without fully processing the abnormality of what was done to you, that says everything about your level of resilience and absolutely nothing about whether it was acceptable. It was not acceptable. The people who are learning the full picture are not offering measured responses like, well, both sides probably have valid points. They are saying plainly and without hesitation, what was done to you was not okay. And the fact that you carried all of that without collapsing completely, without losing yourself in the process, without becoming bitter, hardened, or weaponized, that is not a level of endurance that should have been required of you simply to exist in your own life. Because you kept walking through things that were genuinely not ordinary, you may have normalized them without realizing it. You may have started to quietly accept that this is simply what your life looks like, that this is just how hard things tend to be for you, that maybe this is what you attract into your experience. No, that is not what you attract. That is what was being actively directed at you by someone operating from a very specific and very dark place, and the distinction between those two realities matters enormously. If you believe that the difficulty was somehow originating from within you, you internalize it. You carry it forward. You unknowingly build your identity around surviving it. But if you clearly understand that the difficulty was being manufactured from the outside by someone with a deliberate agenda, you can set it down, you can see it for exactly what it was, and you can stop treating the scar like it is your personality. The people watching your vindication unfold right now see clearly what you may have had to blur just to keep yourself functioning day to day. And their reaction, the shock, the absolute appalled disbelief, the sincere "I cannot believe you lived through that," is not pity, it is recognition, it is witness, it is the world finally looking at your full account and calling it exactly what it is. You did not go through what everybody goes through. You went through something specific, something targeted, and something that required a particular kind of person to survive with their spirit intact. You were that person. You still are. Now carry yourself like it. Here is the revelation that has been hiding inside everything that happened to you. You were targeted because something in you genuinely terrified the person who came for you. A light, a calling, a force that was already moving towards something significant, even if you could not fully see the destination yet. And in trying to stop it, in investing all of that energy, obsession and calculation into shutting you down, the only real outcome was confirmation of your significance. You do not spend that level of sustained effort on someone who is not going anywhere meaningful. You do not risk those kinds of serious consequences for someone who does not genuinely matter. You do not wage that kind of prolonged war on someone who does not represent a real threat to the version of reality you are desperately trying to protect. The attack itself was the testimony. The entire campaign was the evidence. And now that the full picture is visible, now that the lengths, the lows, and the sustained obsession can be seen clearly, what people are actually witnessing is everything that attack proves about you. You were chosen long before any of this started. The attack did not create your destiny. It confirmed it. It refined it. It added layers of depth and an unshakable quality to your foundation that comfort and ease could never have produced. The fire did not consume you. It revealed you. It burned away everything that was not real and left behind everything that genuinely is. And now you move forward as that refined version on a clear path, with aligned companions entering your life, with your name being spoken in the right conversations, doing the work you were always built to do, not in spite of what you went through, because of it. With the full weight of that journey behind you, everything you do now carries a gravity and a credibility that simply cannot be faked, purchased, or imitated. They meant it for your destruction. The universe used it for your elevation. The very behaviors that have people appalled right now, the lengths, the lows, the unnecessary and excessive nature of every deliberate choice made against you, those behaviors became the instrument of their own complete unraveling. The opposition did not fail to destroy you despite doing all of those things. The opposition failed to destroy you because of all of those things. Because every move made in the dark left a record, every lie required another lie to support it. Every person brought into the operation became a potential witness to the truth. Every door closed against you became a documented injustice. Every false accusation left a trail that, when followed back to its origin, pointed directly at the source. A case was being built against themselves in the very act of trying to construct one against you. That is the divine irony at the absolute center of everything. The same force that was invested in your destruction became the evidence for their own exposure. You did not have to do anything except survive. The universe handled everything else with perfect, unhurried, and absolute precision. They built the fire to end you. You used it to become. Now everybody can see what you became. The people who were turned against you see it and are recalibrating. Those who are just now learning your name see it and lean in with interest. The divine hand that permitted every single thing you went through sees it and calls it good, because what was intended for your destruction became the defining proof of your selection. This is not the end of your journey. This is the end of the section that was designed to be your conclusion but became your introduction. Your introduction to who you actually are, to what you are actually made of, and to what you are actually here to do. The path is clear, the momentum is real, the reward is being released. The right companion is on the way, your name is rising, everything is opening, and you, chosen one, are just getting started. Go collect what is yours.